YouTube, it's Adam from I'm Music More. Welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to go ahead and remake from scratch Cry For Me by The Weeknd. Tempo for this one is 120 beats per minute, and the track is produced by Boomin, The Weeknd, Mike Dean, and Erdem Özler. To kick things off, we'll start at the intro. I'm going to bring in Logic's ES2 synthesizer for this sound. We'll leave it on the stock settings for now. We'll adjust it in a moment. Let's just go ahead and draw in that pattern. This just gets pushed back a little bit here, actually. All right, then we're just going to copy this over like that. Then we'll copy it over once again. We'll bring this down. All right, so that is the pattern for the intro. Next, let's go ahead and adjust the sound. So we're not going to adjust much. We're just going to pull up the cutoff filter here. Make it a little bit brighter. We'll add in some analog detuning by pulling up this right here. Let's go ahead and turn on unison. Make it nice and wide. And then we'll just go ahead and adjust our envelope here. So that sound will be looped throughout the entire track, not the pattern, but the sound. Next, we're gonna go ahead and create a new software instrument track, and we're gonna bring in a Moog bass. For that sound, we'll bring in Logic's retro synth. We'll start from the default settings. We'll design the sound from scratch. First, let's go ahead and draw on that pattern. Let's just bring this down a couple octaves. Now let's go ahead and adjust the sound. For one, I'm going to change the oscillators both to a square wave. I'm going to pull this one up to be a little detuned. Next, let's pull up the envelope here so it's brighter. And we're going to make it pop at the beginning and then die out. So let's pull down the filter envelope here. All right, maybe we'll bring this down one octave. Let's go ahead and pull this down. That sounds better. And then next what we're gonna do is open up an EQ and just filter out some of the top end. You just want the bass in there to fill out this. Kind of fills out that low end. And then we're going to bring in all of those cinematic effects that happens in the track. Now, I went ahead and sampled it directly from the song because there's quite a few of them. So here is the cinematic effects intro. I just sampled it once again from the track. This is what it sounds like on its own. All right, so with this, all that, we get our intro. Next, let's move on to the next section. So I'm just going to move on over here. We're going to go ahead and copy over this pattern. It's going to change up. We're going to use the same sound. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to duplicate that down because we're going to take a little bit of the bass out here to leave room for 808. So what happens here is this pattern like this. It just repeats itself. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take out a little bit of the low end. Just a touch. just to leave room for our 808 once we do bring it in. So let's go ahead and create a new software instrument track and bring in some of the drums. We'll go over to my library browser here. We'll go user patches, drum kits, and I'll bring in the kit I made for this remake, the Cry For Me drum kit. Here it is right over here. So here are all the sounds from the Cry For Me song. So if you are looking for the drums from Hurry Up Tomorrow by The Weeknd, I put together a deconstructed kit organized by track and organized by song. If you're interested in that, link will be down below. But let's get back to the remake. And that just repeats itself. And then we get in the kick with the stomp. So we're gonna create a pattern region here. We're just gonna put it on the 1. And next, let's put in that snare. So there are a couple different snare sounds in this one, but this is the first one. Next, let's get into those vocal stabs. So that's the first one. Now the second one. All right, so that's it for that pattern. Next, let's go on to the next one. So what we're gonna do here is just copy over these 3 patterns, and then we're gonna bring in some more sounds, but first let's change up the patterns for these drums. So first, for the 808, it's gonna go something like this. It just kind of double hits over there. And then we're gonna adjust the brass synth pad pattern as well. So instead of it sort of lasting the entire bar, we're gonna take all of those sounds and cut it up quite a bit. Because that's going to leave room for the new sound that we have to bring in. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and create a new software instrument track. And I'm going to bring in Logic's Retro Synth. We'll leave it on as default settings for now. We'll come back and adjust the sound in a moment. Let's just go ahead and draw in that pattern. And this is just going to get octaved out. So down there, ooh, bring it up 1. And that pattern is just going to duplicate itself. Just bring it into the right spot. Now let's go ahead and adjust that sound. We'll open up Logic's Retro Synth. And we're just going to adjust the second shape. We're going to go from a sawtooth down to a triangle. Just to give it a little bit of like ringiness to it. Let's bring down our filter here, because we're going to open it up with the envelope. Let's go ahead and just detune this second sound a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit more. Next, let's go ahead and focus in on our envelopes. So we want this filter envelope to kind of swell a little bit. So it's gonna go, let's pull this up, pull up the attack a bit. We'll bring back to decay so it's not so long. Pull out the release. And we're going to soften the attack here on our amp envelope as well. Just a little bit. It's not going to be too much. You'll still have a little bit of that click. Except what we're going to do here is going to bring down the sustain, so it's kind of a sharper hit. Bring up the release. Then we'll add in some chorus just to soften up the sound. So we'll use the chorus built in retro synth. We'll just turn that on. We don't want too much of it. Bring up the rate a bit. And then we'll make the sound a little bit fatter sounding, a little bit more analog sounding. So we'll open up the settings page over here and we'll stretch the unison to 4 voices. And we're going to detune this up quite a bit. And then next, let's go ahead and just take a little bit of the bass out so it doesn't conflict with the 808. Ever so slight. There's not much there, just to make sure it's out. And then we'll open up an exciter here just to bring out the sound a little bit more. We'll bring in a preset called the sizzle. Kind of gives it a little sizzle on top. And then we'll bring in some reverb as well. So let's go to Logic's Chroma Reverb. And we'll bring in a preset here. Go to Synth Reverbs. We'll go to the big synth hall. Maybe we don't need it so big, so we'll just bring that down a bit. Let's just bring up the velocity on this a bit. Next, let's go ahead and duplicate this pattern because the 808 does switch up once again. So we're gonna go ahead and copy all this over. It's pretty much the same pattern except this last note goes up. All right, next, let's go ahead and bring in some more drums. Let's bring in the clap. Now the kick. Next, let's bring in the open hat. And next we'll bring in the hi-hat pattern. It's just a little bit of a hi-hat roll at the end of the pattern. So let's just jump to the end here. So I believe it is a 32 roll. So let's go ahead and change this over to 32 and we'll just paint that in. And we're just going to draw the velocity down so it's not so static. Let's go ahead and bring in another vocal shout. And then we're going to go ahead and bring in the bass once again. So we're going to drag this bass over to this section here. Adds a little bit of thickness. All right, let's move on to the next section. So what we're gonna do here is copy over our pad and bass. Our bass is going to switch up a little bit. It's gonna continue on this downtrend and then back up again. But we also have to change our progression of our pad sound as well. So what we're gonna do here is open that up and this is going to come down. Now let's go ahead and put in some of the percussion elements. And then we'll add in another perc sound. and that's layered with the clap. And that brings us into the drop of the track, which is the sample section. So let's go ahead and bring that in. But before we do, what we're gonna do is mute out all of these tracks. We're gonna hit this marker over here, and we're actually going to create a new tempo set for that sample so that when we bring it in, Logic will automatically detect its tempo, and then we can quickly chop up where we need to. So this is gonna be the new tempo for the sample. We'll change our tempo mode over to automatic mode. And now we're gonna go ahead and drag in that sample. So the sample is by the S.O.S band, I Wanna Be the One. Let's drag that in. Logic will analyze it, do its thing, it finds the tempo. Next, let's go ahead and find the location of where we need to cut for that piece that we need. So it is at the beginning here. That's all we really need, just that quick 2-bar loop right there. But before we do that, actually what I want to do is turn on flex mode. This way when we change the tempo back to the original tempo of 120, it'll automatically stretch it to the appropriate length at 120 beats per minute. So now let's go ahead and chop that up. We just need the 2 bars. All right, perfect. Next, what we're gonna do is go back to our original tempo of 120. Let's take this out of the way. And now let's go ahead and just move our sample to the appropriate location and add in some effects. So let's go ahead and duplicate this track here. And I'm just going to bring the sample right here, bring this up. We can mute this out. We don't need it. Let's loop up the sample. So the first thing we have to do is pitch this up 3 semitones. So we'll select our region, option arrow up, 1, 2, 3. Gonna make this a little louder as well. Next, we'll add in an EQ just to shape up this sample. So I'll bring in an EQ, and I'm actually gonna bring in a preset here found under the voice category. It's the vocal presence preset. Makes it a little bit brighter. Then we'll bring in a chorus just to soften up that sample. So we'll do Shift Command P, Control Command P, we'll bring in chorus. We're gonna use the default setting that loads up. Just bring it down a little bit. And then we'll bring in some reverb. So we'll go Control Command P, and we'll bring in Logic's Chroma Reverb. And then we'll bring back some of the drums, so the 808. We'll bring in the same hi-hat, but a new pattern. So we're just gonna go give it like a 2-step type of thing. And then we'll add in some rolls throughout the pattern. Do one here. And then of course we have to add in the secondary snare. All right, and then for the remainder of the track, it's pretty much just arranging the track, sounds come in and out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what we changed and what we added. All right, so here is the full arrangement of the track. We kind of left off at this spot right here. So once we leave that section of the track, we get into this new part. We have the same Moog bass sound here. This is the pattern. It's just set a little bit brighter. Same pad. This is the pattern for the section. And then this is the Synth Melody. It's basically following the same pattern from the sample itself. And for that sound, I added in Logic's Retro Synth, the dance basic lead right here. And then the 808 just follows that pattern as well. So it looks like this. And that's layered with a kick on top. And fast forward a couple bars, we do get a new sliding synth. I call it the Mike Dean sliding synth. So this right here. The pattern is basically two Gs an octave apart that is sliding into each other. And for that sound, I'm using a preset from my upcoming update to the Mogul presets. It is the Mike Dean sliding synth. It is taken from Timeless, another remake we put together by The Weeknd. So same sound, just put in this one here. And then we carry on in the track. It goes back into the sample. We get that Moog bass once again that we've created. The only thing that's really added here is just a piano, just to layer on top here. And for that sound, I'm using Logic's stock studio piano sound. It just layers the chord progression that we're using on the pad. We get the same perk sound from before, except I just added a little bit of reverb on it. So I use the sample itself here. And the same thing continues on for the outro, except there's just a couple more sounds placed in just to fill it out and really bring everything out to this big point in the track, the outro bit. So it gets huge at the end and then kind of cuts out. So we add these strings just to add some tension. For that, I'm using Logic's Retro Synth, the Bright Strings preset. We're adding this pad sound using Logic's analog silk pad sound in Alchemy. And then layered with that is the same melody we had before. For that, I'm using another sound in Alchemy, the brass response on the rich brass performance. And then right at the end, we get this sort of crescendo moment. Just a nice brass chord at the end. For that, I'm using Logic's Legacy Jam Pack Symphony Orchestra Horns Orchestra Trombone section. And all together, the ending sounds like this. All right, so there is the remainder of the track. I do apologize if you want to see that step by step. The remake was getting a little long, so I figured I'd speed it up a little bit here. So let's go ahead and take a listen to how everything sounds together. This is The Weeknd Cry For Me, remade in Logic Pro. It's Cry For Me, remade in Logic Pro. For Logic Pro users out there, I'm going to go ahead and save this entire session for you, place it as a downloadable link below this video. If you don't use Logic, I got your back as well. I'm going to go and export all the MIDI stems, audio stems, and of course include the drum kit that you heard in this remake. You can find that entire playback down below the like button as well. If you do have any questions on this or just want to chat or have any suggestions for future videos, let's go chat down below. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Later. Peace.